Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something, well, on the surface, it might just seem like another software update, a new browser.
Right.
But, digging into our sources, it looks like this could actually be one of the biggest strategic moves of the year, like a fundamental shift in how we even use the internet.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking about OpenAI's launch of ChatGPT Atlas. It just dropped this week, Tuesday, October 22nd, 2025.
And it's really critical, I think, to look past just the interface, the shiny new buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Atlas isn't really about competing head-to-head with Chrome on, like how fast it loads pages. This feels much more calculated. It's a move to cement AI, specifically their AI, right at the center of everything you do online.
So less about a better browser, more about making ChatGPT the absolute starting point.
Exactly, solidifying its role,
Yeah.
making it the only door you really need to walk through to get online.
Okay, so that's our mission today then. Let's try and unpack that core strategy because it sounds like Atlas is maybe a defensive play dressed up as a new product.
That's a good way to put it. And the scale they launched with, it kind of gives the game away a little, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, think about other recent AI browser launches. They often use those slow, invite-only systems, right? Build hype, manage load.
Gradual rollout.
Atlas, nope, available to everyone straight away. And they're targeting, potentially 800 million weekly ChatGPT users? That's massive from day one.
Okay, wow. So that's scale, right out of the gate.
Yeah.
What does that signal about OpenAI's intentions here?
It screams infrastructure play. They're not just dipping their toes in. They're trying to build the foundations for something much bigger. They're trying to shortcut the decade it normally takes to establish a new platform.
Because they already have the users.
Precisely.
Mhm.
When you've got 800 million people already talking to your AI, the jump to getting them to use your browser, well, the friction is much lower, especially if you offer something genuinely different.
Okay, so let's unpack that difference. What is the unique offering? It starts with this idea of a paradigm shift, right?
Right.
And it's not just OpenAI thinking this way.
No, definitely not. We've seen similar concepts bubbling up. You mentioned the browser companies. Dia, Opera Neon was an early experiment. Perplexity's Comet, Strawberry. They're all kind of circling the same core idea.
Which is
The
that?
shift from links to answers. That's the big one.
Explain that. How does it change things?
Well, think about how we've used browsers for, decades. The address bar is for typing in a website or a search term, right?
Yeah. You search, you get a page of blue links.
And then you do the work. You click, you read, you compare, you synthesize.
Right.
With Atlas and these other new AI browsers, the address bar itself becomes the Q&A surface. You type in a complex question, maybe it's something you'd normally spend ages researching.
And instead of links.
I get a direct, synthesized answer from the AI right there.
Huh. That really does change the whole starting point for using the web. And Sam Altman, OpenAI's CEO, he was pretty blunt about the ambition here.
Yeah, there's that quote floating around.
He said, "We think AI represents once in a decade opportunity to rethink what a browser can be, how to use one, and how to most productively use the web. Tabs were great, but there hasn't been a lot of innovation since then."
That really frames it, doesn't it? Sets the stakes. We've heard other tech leaders, Sundar Pichai at Google, Satya Nadella at Microsoft, talking about AI as a platform shift.
Right, that term keeps coming up.
But for most of us, for the average user, that shift hasn't really landed yet in terms of how we access things. You still go through your phone's OS, Apple's iOS, or Android, or Windows on your desktop to get to the AI tools.
So the old platforms are still the gatekeepers.
Exactly. OpenAI looks like they're trying to build a whole new layer on top of that, sort of an AI operating system. And the browser, Atlas, is their way in, their beachhead.
Okay, so that explains what the shift to answers. But let's get into the why. Why did OpenAI feel they had to build their own browser? Seems like a massive undertaking just to deliver chatbot answers.
Yeah, it does seem like overkill at first glance. But this brings us to maybe the most crucial piece of the strategy, distribution.
Distribution, meaning getting ChatGPT to users.
And keeping that access reliable. It's fundamentally about owning the pipes, controlling how users get to your core product.
Why is that suddenly so critical? Has something changed?
Well, relying on other platforms, other companies for your distribution, it leaves you incredibly vulnerable. And we just saw a really stark example of this, didn't we? Literally last week.
Oh, right. Tell us about that.
Meta. They just completely shut the door on third-party chatbots, and that included ChatGPT, also Perplexity running on WhatsApp.
Wow. And WhatsApp has, billions of users?
Over 3 billion monthly users,
Yeah.
a massive, massive potential audience that, poof, was suddenly cut off from directly using those AIs within that app.
Now that just proved the point, didn't it?
Absolutely. It showed crystal clear that whoever owns the platform, the messaging app, the operating system, whatever, they can just decide to turn off the tap for your product whenever they want. Doesn't matter how popular you are.
So Atlas is basically insurance, a defensive strategy to make sure they can always reach their users, regardless of what Meta or Google or Apple decides to do.
It's definitely a big part of it. It ensures OpenAI controls that user experience end to end. It makes ChatGPT less dependent on the goodwill or the competitive whims of other tech giants. Platform agnostic in a way.
Okay, that makes sense strategically. But beyond just access, what does building their own browser actually let them do with ChatGPT that they couldn't do before?
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting. Because owning the browser allows for deep integration. We're talking weaving ChatGPT into the very fabric of how you browse in ways that just aren't possible when it's just, say, a separate app or a website you visit.
Deeper integration.
hmm
Like how? What are we seeing already?
Well, for starters, think about how you use ChatGPT now. If you wanted to understand a web page, you often have to copy the URL, maybe some text, paste it into the chat window.
Yeah, it's a bit clunky.
Right. With Atlas, apparently users can directly reference multiple websites they have open right within the chat. The AI gets the context instantly without all that copying and pasting.
Okay, that's smoother. What else?
Second, and this is, I think, really crucial for their long-term vision, they're integrating their app SDK directly into Atlas.
SDK, software development kit, the tools developers use.
Exactly. By putting the SDK right in the browser, ChatGPT can effectively call up other apps or services within the chat interface itself. Imagine asking it to book a restaurant, and it pulls up the reservation tool right there.
So it starts acting less like a chatbot and more like
Yeah.
a command center or a mini operating system.
That's the direction it points, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
a huge potential boost for discovering and using other apps through the ChatGPT ecosystem.
Turning it from just conversation into actual utility.
Spot on. And speaking of utility, another thing they've already rolled out is this hovering writing assistant. Yeah, apparently it just shows up automatically whenever you click into a text field anywhere on the web, email, documents, social media.
Offering to help you write.
Exactly. Making the AI this sort of always-on co-pilot for anything you're typing online. Again, deep, sticky integration.
Okay, that level of integration is powerful. You mentioned it pairs with, what was it, the memory feature?
Yes,
Yeah.
the memory feature. This is probably the killer app for power users, but it's also, well, it brings us squarely into the data side of things, and the data implications here are massive.
So memory, it sounds useful, but you're saying it has this huge strategic angle too,
Yep.
altering the kind of data OpenAI gets.
Totally alters it. Think about it. Until now, OpenAI's primary data source from users was their chat history, what you typed into the box.
Right? Your conversations with the AI.
Now, this memory feature, it takes your entire browsing history, the sites you visit, what you look at, and it combines that with your chat history.
Whoa. Okay.
So when you ask ChatGPT a question, it doesn't just remember your past chats. It remembers what you were just looking at 5 minutes ago, or that article you read yesterday. It blends it all together for context.
That sounds incredibly useful, actually, for the user.
Oh, the convenience factor is undeniable. The sources give a great example. Imagine you're trying to remember a specific document. You could ask Atlas something like, what was that work doc where I put my presentation plan?
And because it remembers your browsing and maybe chats about it.
Bam! It fetches the link for you because it has the context of your activity.
Okay, I can see the appeal. But the strategic side, you're saying this is about data collection.
It's a data moat, plain and simple, built in real time. By making ChatGPT the default way you search and enabling this memory feature, OpenAI starts gathering vastly more comprehensive data about user behavior than any competitor running just a standalone chatbot.
More than Google gets from search.
Potentially, yes, because it's combining search-like intent from the chat with the actual browsing behavior and history. It gives them this incredibly rich picture. What sites you visit, what you actually do on those sites, how your browsing relates to the questions you ask the AI, your goals.
An unparalleled insight, as the source said.
Exactly. And this context, this rich user profile they're building, It's not just going to stay inside Atlas.
What do you mean?
OpenAI has plans for a wider sign-in with ChatGPT feature, like sign in with Google or sign in with Apple, but for their ecosystem.
Ah, okay.
And the context gathered by Atlas, that detailed understanding of your digital life, they can potentially pass that context along to other apps and services when you use that sign-in. Atlas is basically building the ultimate user profile for that future AI operating system login.
So in exchange for the convenience of memory and integrated chat, you're essentially handing over a detailed map of your entire online activity.
Pretty much. And the more context they gather, the smarter the AI gets, the more useful it becomes, the harder it is to switch away. And the harder it is for competitors like Google or Meta to ever catch up because they can't easily replicate that combined browsing and chat history data.
Right. That makes sense. Now, you mentioned earlier we should also look at what Atlas doesn't have, what's missing.
Yes. Because what's missing is actually very revealing about the core strategy here. It strongly reinforces this idea that Atlas is built for the AI, not necessarily for improving traditional browsing in the ways we usually think about.
Okay, so what's not in Atlas?
Well, it's pretty stark when you compare it to other modern browsers, especially ones aimed at power users who are often the first to try new things.
Like what?
The sources are clear. No built-in ad blocker, no VPN, no dedicated reading mode to strip out clutter, no instant translate feature for foreign websites.
Wait, no ad blocker, no reading mode. Those are like table stakes for a lot of people these days. Well, I'll leave those out. Seems like a huge oversight if they want people to actually switch.
See, I don't think it's an oversight. I think it's deliberate. It's strategic.
How could leaving out popular features be strategic?
Think about what those features do. Ad blockers, reading modes. They're designed to make your experience of consuming web content smoother, faster, less cluttered. They reduce friction between you and the page.
Yeah.
But Atlas seems to want a certain kind of friction. Or rather, it wants the AI to be the solution to that friction. If a page is cluttered or too long, what do you do in Atlas? You don't click reading mode. You have to ask ChatGPT to summarize it for you or find the specific info you need.
So you're forced back into interacting with the AI. The act of just opening a page becomes less about you consuming it directly and more about feeding context to ChatGPT about what you're looking at.
Precisely. Every interaction is nudged back towards the AI loop and, not having an ad blocker. That also keeps OpenAI in control of how you experience the web's content economy. If everyone just asks the AI for summaries, they might bypass the original site's ads or paywalls entirely. That could have big downstream effects.
Interesting. So it's a very different philosophy from some competitors like, say, the browser company with Arc.
Totally different. Arc has been using AI for more traditional browser tasks, right? Like it can automatically rename your downloaded files based on content or let you visually zap annoying elements off a web page you visit often. It's using AI to improve the browsing experience itself.
Whereas Atlas is using the browser to improve the AI experience and gather data for it.
Exactly. Atlas feels less like an improved browser and more like, as one source put it, a broader canvas for ChatGPT itself. It's not trying to fix the old web. It's trying to build a new interface over it.
Okay, so pulling this all together,
Hmm?
what's the ultimate end game here? Where does OpenAI see this going?
Well, Fiji Simo, who heads up applications at OpenAI, she laid out a pretty breathtaking vision. It's not subtle.
What does she say?
She basically said ChatGPT needs to become so much more than the simple chatbot it started as. That the goal is, explicitly, for it to evolve into the operating system for your life.
The operating system for your life. Wow.
Yeah, a fully connected hub that helps you manage your day and achieve your long-term goals. That's aiming to replace the entire way we interact with our devices and digital information.
That is a huge, huge ambition. But it all seems to hang on one massive challenge, doesn't it?
Absolutely, the adoption hurdle.
Right. How on earth do you convince billions of people who just default? They open Chrome or Safari on their iPhone or Edge on Windows without even thinking about it. How do you break that ingrained habit?
That's the billion-user question, isn't it? Switching browsers is notoriously difficult. People stick with what they know. Chrome won dominance partly because it was fast, yes, but crucially, it made Google search the effortless default starting point for the internet.
So for Atlas to truly take over,
Billions of users need to fundamentally change their core habit. They need to adopt this new behavior of constantly blending their browsing with AI chat, making that Q&A bar the new default way they interact with the web.
it sounds perfect for people who are already deep into ChatGPT, maybe already using it instead of Google for most things.
Exactly. For that committed group, Atlas is probably a dream come true. But for OpenAI's grand OS for your life vision to become reality, that group needs to expand massively. It needs to include the average person and fast.
So, summing up our deep dive today, Atlas isn't just another browser hitting the market.
Not at all. It's a deeply strategic play. It's about securing distribution, breaking reliance on other platforms, and maybe most importantly, dramatically scaling up user data collection through that memory feature. It's all infrastructure.
Laying the groundwork, building the data moat, all needed to push towards that ultimate vision of ChatGPT as this central operating system.
That's the core takeaway, I think. The genius, or perhaps the unsettling part, depending on your view, is leveraging convenience, that promise of perfect context, effortless answers to achieve that dominance in distribution and data.
Which leaves us with that final thought, that tension. What really stands out to you listening to this? Consider this trade-off. The tool designed to seamlessly manage your day, your goals, your life is also the tool gathering incredibly detailed context on everything you do online. What does that convergence mean for your digital future, for your autonomy? Something to mull over.
Definitely food for thought. Until next time.